What's good, folks? Welcome to another episode of the Cover One Film Room, presented, of course, by the Cover One Sports Network and sponsored by your best option for cigars in the city of Buffalo, Nichols City Cigars. I'm
Yes.
one of your two hosts. Yes, they are phenomenal. I'm one of your two hosts in this episode, Anthony Prohaska, joined tonight by Eric Turner. And Eric, the sky is falling. The Bills are doomed. Everything's terrible. Pack it up. Go home.
Man.
What a state for Bills Mafia right now, which is kind of the theme of where we are in this episode and diagnosing what's wrong with the Buffalo Bills after this loss to the New York Jets. But unfamiliar territory for us this year, breaking down a loss and breaking down a loss with several ugly pieces to it.
Yeah, I mean, we have to break down a loss, which sucks. But then you also have that cloud hanging over our head with, Josh Allen's injury, everyone refreshing their phones, even while they're watching the show, I'm sure. So yeah, it's going to be an odd episode. It's a lot of negative plays, a lot of bad plays, but hey, we're objective. We're going to show you the X's and O's and, the stuff that went wrong. And, that's how, the team viewed the film the last couple of days. And unfortunately, we're going to do it. And hopefully you guys can at least learn something from it and then, apply it to the next few games for the Buffalo Bills.
And there were some, despite the loss, there were some positive aspects of this game. But I think for Eric, for you and I tonight, it's about, we're getting a lot of, and I think it's awesome with the network that, you've created and the community that Cover One has now. We get all these people, whether it's in, the premium Slack channel or just people directly on Twitter, out in public Twitter or in the DMs, who reach out to us or who post. And it's just a lot of questions of what's going on with Josh Allen, or what's going on with the offense, what's going on with the run fits. Is it Tremaine Edmonds' fault? What's going on with Terrell Bernard? Like the genuine questions we get in conjunction with what we see out there from others in content creation or analysts and kind of piecing things together. So that's where our focus is tonight on this episode. We're going to look at the Buffalo Bills offense and the Buffalo Bills defense. We're going to have a discussion about both sides of the ball. We're going to dive into the film on both sides of the ball and hit a lot of the pieces that a lot of you folks have been reaching out to us about, or that we've seen the discussions about, inconsistencies in the offense, some ugliness, some lack of cohesion, what's going on with some Josh Allen pieces. And then of course on the defensive side, run fits, in particular.
Run fits.
I was going to say, I really just wanted to stop and be like, run fits and that's it.
Yeah.
It's a spot that, and it's understandable too, right? Like you come off a loss combined with a quote unquote, like ugly win.
Yeah.
People are still paranoid because they're Bills fans. And I joked in the beginning, but some people feel like the sky is falling, and there's a lot of, then you add the Josh Allen injury piece. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of emotions that are, and rightfully so, I think, but a lot of emotions that are clouding people's judgment at this point.
Yeah. And, there are concerns, and they're legit concerns, but the sky isn't falling. I forget who was it Von Miller that said, it's the ebbs and flows of the season. Right. And like, we are consistently saying that. And, you got to understand, this is their job. So this is their craft. They're in there trying to rectify the bad run fits or the missed tackles and some of the stuff that Anthony talked about with the offense, whether it's lack of creativity, some of the plays where Josh Allen's under pressure, some of those plays where he's throwing interceptions. Like they're actually in there trying to fix these situations and mistakes. So the sky isn't falling. It's their job to kind of turn things around and fix what is going wrong. So I believe they're in there and they're actually trying to do that. I had some fans ask me if, the Bills came into this game against the Jets kind of like, looking forward to the Vikings and whatnot. And it's hard for me to fathom, knowing, talking with some of these players routinely throughout the week to think that they're going into a game looking past what's in front of them. That's just like, that's been ingrained in them ever since McDermott and this regime has taken over. So I just don't see them doing that and playing that way. They respected the opponent that was ahead of them. Obviously, it's a divisional opponent. Those games are always tight. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for the Bills, but they were, when we, pivoting to the offense, they were playing against a really, really good defense.
I think that's a key point too. Like I talked about it all week, and actually had some people come at me for like kind of believing in the Jets too much. And I understood it from the offensive side, especially with Breece Hall going down. but they're a good defense. They were 8th in DVOA going into last week, and that's also 8th against the pass and 8th against the run. They have a tremendous defensive line, which was a huge matchup advantage for them in this game against the Buffalo Bills. Then they've got some talent at the second level and the third level now. They've got a good coach in Robert Saleh, and now they've got that belief and confidence. I think that's also part of it too. Like we say it all the time on this show, Eric, like sometimes you just got to tip your cap, and I think that gets lost in it. Like sometimes people forget that the opponent is also good at football and they're also trying to win. And sometimes players make plays or coaches have good game plans and you lose. And I think that played a role in this game as well. But I love the point about not overlooking this team. This is a division game. It's important. McDermott and the coaching staff were preaching that. It's not like they were playing, I don't want to like foreshadow, but it's like they were playing the Bears and the next week they were playing the Chiefs. Like this was a division game. They knew what was up. I don't think they were overlooking anybody.
No, definitely not. And we're looking at some of Josh Allen's PFF stats here, and you can see he's under pressure 31% of the time.
Yes.
Only completed 16.7% in those situations. One interception. Again, we're going to go over some of those interceptions and what happened and what he did or didn't see for that matter. But you can see it was a rough game. 205 yards total. Again, just over 50% completion percentage. It was tough to see, but as you said, that defensive line and then that secondary too is really shaping up, and that scheme. And we're talking about defensive scheme. Like their scheme is eerily similar to the Buffalo Bills. It is scary how similar they are, and the pieces that they have, and how they all work together and as a unit. Doing their 111. It's very scary, but. My issue with this game was obviously we're going to talk about Josh Allen specifically. I want to start from the top. I'm going to start from Ken Dorsey because I felt in this game it was one of his game plans this year that has lacked creativity. Now, I'm talking outside of the script. The initial script was nice. Like they drove down there. Of course, they had that big bomb early. And even the drive after the interception, like some of those scripted plays early in the game were very sharp. I mean, they were running dart, which is that tackle pull play. They ran a dart RPO. They ran a nice, QB sneak up the middle.
Yeah, the tight end leak to Knox that was really well timed with that surge motion look.
The extra offensive linemen, different personnel groupings. So they did some really cool things within the script. But I thought when it came to the passing game, it felt very vanilla. It felt very segmented where one side of the field was doing a specific route combination. The other side was doing its own standalone combination. There was no cohesiveness to it where Josh would go through his progressions. It was either like this side of the field or that side of the field or Josh run. And when that happens, Josh is going to run. A lot of times he's going to run before he checks it down. And I think more so in the second half, that's what began to happen with Josh Allen because of the scheme and game plan that Dorsey put forth against the Jets.
Yeah, and I think even within some of that vanilla aspect of the team, like a lot of the route concepts, we know this team loves the smash concept, but it seemed like almost every passing play had some sort of whether it was just your traditional smash or more we're gonna run smash, but the stick route is gonna be 8 yards downfield instead of being at 4 or 5, and it kind of was just repetitive to a degree, and it lacked that ingenuity and that creativity, and then you pair it with Josh getting pressured over and over again. And there's a piece, real quick, actually, before you leave, if you look at, this is a thing I've drilled on so much, the pressure to sack percentage for this game, Josh Allen, 38.5%. Last year, Josh Allen, from a volume perspective, was the highest pressured quarterback in the entire NFL. But again, the Bills pass a lot, so volume, it kind of makes sense to a degree. He was pressured, again, led the league as a quarterback, 246 dropbacks he was pressured on. His pressures converted to sack percentage was 10.6 last year. And even if you look at what it is on this year, on the year, it's 14.5%. But in this game against the Jets, it was 38.5. Yeah. They got after him early, forced him from the pocket. And when you combine it with a lack of creativity in the half field reads, it was just chaos. And especially in that second half, like you mentioned, I mean, we're going to show a bunch of them. It seemed like it was drop back and then have to evade left and right, whether it was due to the pressure, whether it was due to the concepts, and everything just became hard and became tight, and it was just a lot to bear.
Yeah, and I've gotten a lot of comments the last couple of days that it felt like it was either a shot call down the field or Josh Allen scrambling, and I feel like this comes up every year, regardless of who the coordinator is, And to me, that always kind of like signifies that the defenses are catching up. And I feel like that may be happening to Ken Dorsey's offense. And so, we've praised him every couple of weeks about his game plans and some of the little things he's doing to get guys open that may be simple, but they're quite effective. But it felt like in this game, they weren't. And those little tweaks and adjustments that he is doing on a weekly basis didn't work against the Jets. And it just felt like, again, that defenses are starting to catch up. They're getting more film on him. They're getting more formational identification cues from the offense now. And to me, that just means, well, guess what? Now it's, as I said at the top, now it's time for this staff and these players to adjust. It's time for them to pivot because it felt like we went through this with Dable last year, like maybe halfway to 3/4 way through the season. And they were just like, okay, everyone's playing those too high looks. We need to shift and pivot. We need to hit those checkdowns. We need to run the ball. We need to use extra offensive linemen to run the ball if we have to, but we have to run the ball. We have to hit these checkdowns to make them respected, to make them come out of those too high looks. And so those type of comments coming from fans and people on the internet, to me, that's when it usually signifies that, hey, after watching the film, it definitely confirmed my thought that it's time for this staff to adjust, and it's time for Ken Dorsey to really show what he has when it comes to that.
I think it's super funny that we're sitting here. So the Bills are 6-2 and week 9 just passed. And we talked about, because we got questions from people in the offseason of, when are you really going to start to see like what Ken Dorsey's offense is, or when are you going to really start to get that proper sample size? And we literally were like midway, probably weeks like 8 through 10, you'll start to really see. And it's so ironic or coincidental that we're sitting here and the Bills have played 8 games, but we're heading into week 10 of the season. And this is the aspect we're starting to get to. Like, you've got a proper sample size if you are NFL opponents, and seeing what Ken Dorsey likes to do formationally, personnel-wise. So, and a lot of the things that were new and unique to this offense in week 1 and 2 and 3 are kind of old hat at this point after week 8 and week 9. And yeah, like as we mentioned earlier, like these teams that the Bills are playing, they're also competing. They're also trying. And if you are able to be put into a box, and the more more predictable you become, defenses can start to dictate to you a little bit. And we saw it a bit in this game. And that'll lead us right into the offensive film for the Buffalo Bills. It's not all bad, though. We're going to start with a really good play, just to kind of warm everybody up before we go downhill and go off the rails. But a really nice one to start this one, literally right out of the gate, attacking Sauce Gardner and a big play to Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, and it's something that, we talked about the last couple of weeks about how the Bills love to kind of run those like quick out routes, usually from shotgun. It's their, free access RPOs where Diggs will short motion and he'll just run like a quick out route right here into the flats. And I think that's kind of what they're building on here. But they also kind of built on the prior week against the Packers where you saw Diggs kind of running out and up the sideline for a touchdown. So this looks awfully similar to that. I really like this call because of the personnel grouping from the end zone. You got Gilliam here and Knox basically in line here with a single back set and motor. And again, the Jets are in a single high look. And so Sauce, again, I think he's assuming that Diggs is running out route, but you see Diggs get right up inside that cover 3 look from Sauce up top. And then again, stack him and Josh hits him for a big play to start the game.
They played more single high looks, especially cover 3, especially in the first half as well, than I thought they would. Yeah. And then they used more 2 high and especially cover 4 as the game went on. But yeah, beautiful play to attack Sauce right from the get-go. And you can see he gets almost completely flat-footed. Like, he's sitting at the sticks thinking that Diggs is also going to sit at the sticks. And, part of what makes him a great player, it's similar to, not that they're completely similar players, but it's similar to when Diggs beat Jalen Ramsey in week 1. Ramsey thought it was Diggs was going to sit, and they were in, I believe, quarters, and he just let Diggs run right by him completely. It's similar on this play. Diggs gives him that look, and it's a shout out to Diggs, the nuance that he operates with his route running, and he fools the rookie corner and burns him right down the field. But again, a nice piece building on something they've shown similarly in other parts of this year. And as you highlighted it right there, something that we would not continue to see throughout the rest of this game. A nice shaped pocket for Josh Allen, nice and clean, no trash. He's able to drop back, hit the top of his drop, hitch up, and then just be able to fire this one right into Stephon Diggs, who beats Sauce, gets open, and it seemed like they were off to the races right off the start. Also, a really nice play action fake from Josh Allen. We've talked about it a lot, but his ball handling in these play action looks is very nice and very key.
Yeah, and so we'll move on to the first interception. It was 2 plays later, I believe.
Yeah.
And I like it's something we talked about with Jay Feely a couple of years ago, is when they play the Jets, they always want to go under center a little more, and it's something we expected. Getting them under center, running some of that play action, and running those pin and pulls. That's like their bread and butter against the Jets the last 2 or 3 years. So I like this concept with Shakir from the slot to the bottom, and obviously off of play action here. Away from his rollout, so he's kind of running naked here. You have a delayed release from a Knox here, and he's just going to go out into the flats. You have a deep corner here from Gilliam, and you'll see it from the end zone angle. But Josh, pre to post that picture here, kind of changed on him, and as he admitted, he did not see Jordan Whitehead. And we're going to show you from the end zone why that is. So there's Whitehead. He's number 3 right there, and as the ball snapped, the run is going away from him. And so you see him come downhill into that C gap there. And then all of a sudden he retreats. And so Josh snaps his head around. And so this is the progression he's working in. You see Gilliam going deep. Of course, I think that Sauce is the corner over the top, takes that away. So 1 is there. You see, just track Josh Allen's helmet. So 1's taken away. And then 2 is Shakir coming across the middle right there. And I know AQ was like, yeah, he could have probably thrown this. He probably could have. Yeah,
but Joyner's driving on that.
He's driving. He's slicing on it, and Josh is going to want to lead him. It's going to be right. It's going to be a dangerous ball with the velocity that Josh is going to have to throw that. It could be a big hit, a hospital ball. So you see Josh bypass that and then work on his progression, and then he just starts throwing the ball. Like his eyes, I'll do it in slow motion. So there he's looking at Shakir. Now he's getting onto his check down, his outlet. It's Dawson Knox. He's already throwing at this moment, and from this angle, you can kind of see, I don't know if this guy is in the way of his vision. Maybe he doesn't see Whitehead, and that's why he doesn't see him. But like I said, pre to post snap, he also assumed that Whitehead was not going to be anywhere out there near this, especially once a DN kind of held up Knox on a release. Unfortunately, Josh throws it, and it's an easy interception for Whitehead.
It's a kudos to Whitehead for, reading the run action, but then screaming back and getting out there to the flats to obviously influence this throw and then get the interception. But Josh mentioned it, like he said, that he didn't see Whitehead. And I think you're spot on. Like from that angle, I think he doesn't see Whitehead at all. He's staring down John Franklin Myers. And I think it's like an eclipse, and the sun and the moon are lined up directly like on one another. And I think that's what you have here. And he just doesn't see Franklin Myers, or doesn't see Whitehead through Franklin Myers like whatsoever, and he throws it right to him. But again, it's not just that piece. It's like you mentioned, like number 1 is taken away. Number 2 doesn't look like an ideal throw. So let me go to my outlet and the spot that I'm rolling to. And I think he's open because I'm reading what I thought pre-snap, and then I don't see anybody because I'm staring at a monster of a man. And it's just a whole bunch of little breadcrumbs that lead to an unfortunate interception. But when you're seeing it on the broadcast, it's just like, what the hell is going on? And then you see it here. Yeah, exactly. A head scratcher. But you see it here, and it's not completely understandable, but you're able to piece it together of why it happened, unfortunately.
Yeah, and this type of pursuit happened all day versus Josh Allen. When he wanted to break the pocket, whether it was they were coming at him 100 miles an hour and forcing him to make that decision. And this obviously that pressure from that edge player played a part in that, or else he would have been able to just run it on that play. So yeah, unfortunate throw there. One of those head scratchers that, the last couple of weeks, it's been just odd when it comes to Josh Allen and some of those interceptions. This play here is just, I really like this design, and it's a red zone shot here. It's a rail route up the sideline to Cook here. And unfortunately that pressure gets to Josh Allen.
Close.
Yeah, it gets to Josh Allen, and just as he's releasing it too. Rankins does a great job, and I'll show it from the end zone angle. But you can see Cook, if Josh leads him to the back of the end zone down this way, Cook's going to outrun the safety there. And
Whitehead is completely flat-footed. He's got no shot.
And he's peeking in the backfield, and he really was like, do I want to, take this guy, or he's looking at Singletary. So either way, say Josh steps up in the pocket, he has time to diagnose, okay, I don't want to take this risky shot down the field. He has Singletary too, because you can see number 3 to the flats is not being picked up by this linebacker. So the Bills were in good shape design-wise. This is within that play script, the initial play script of Dorsey. It was there, unfortunately. the ball is stripped from Josh Allen, and he's just got to make something out of nothing. But this protection is tough. This is a gap type run cell here, pass protection. So you got Bates going right to left on your screen. You have a back block by Morse, quick off the snap versus Rankins. You see Rankins do a good job, stay low in his pad with his pads there, and he's able to turn that corner. But Josh is not able to really step up because Lawson, again, coming downhill unblocked, that puller Bates has to pick him up. So this is a very tough protection against this type of defensive line. And you can see it really paid off in the favor of the Jets because Josh is not able to get rid of the ball there when we think that Cook would have been in there for a touchdown.
Yeah, it's super frustrating to see. I said it on Twitter, like I watched this play about 15 times and just kept rewinding it, thinking that like, oh, he's going to complete it this time because he just needed like a 1/10 of a second or a 1/4 of a second to complete this one. And I love how you highlighted the protection piece because this was asked to me on Twitter, like what's going on with the protection here, or why are they blocking like this? And because they are trying to sell that run action, but it makes the protection hard. And this defensive front, Quinn Williams gets talked about, and rightfully so. He's tremendous. But Franklin Myers, who we've already mentioned, Sheldon Rankins, Bryce Huff, who's the one who got the strip on Allen that potentially hurt his elbow, a returning Shaq Lawson, Nate Shepard, like they've been getting contributions from everyone, and they have a good rotation, a la, similar to the Buffalo Bills this year. I love the burst from Rankins. He gets low, and that's a tough block for Morse having to get to him off of this action with Bates pulling, and Rankins just attacks the shoulder. Low man wins, gets through him. Carl Lawson comes screaming off that edge and really meets a pulling Ryan Bates. Bates doesn't even really have the opportunity to try and kind of like anchor down or even set to the point that Allen can step up, and they just compress everything on Josh Allen, which is a theme that we would see throughout this day, either getting penetration or compressing the pocket. This was a defensive front that is built on one gapping principles. They're mean, they're nasty, they get forward in a hurry. And when you have a non-traditional pass protection set like this, because you're trying to sell the run action, you kind of put yourself at a disadvantage to start the play. And the Jets just took advantage of that disadvantage and got to Allen quickly and just got the hand right on the ball.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate because I do think that we are going to see Dorsey try to get, and we saw it in this game, he wants to get the running backs involved in the red zone, especially. And here's another one. This one was with Hines on 3rd and 10, running essentially a same route up the sideline, a rail route. But like pre to post snap, you see the numbers here. Just look pre to post snap, the two receivers to the top. So you got kind of like a nasty alignment by Knox here. So that's one of the options to the top of the screen. And then of course you have the running back going up the sideline as a second option. But if you look to the defensive side, they have, I think that's Sauce up on Knox there. And then there's really no one. So all the linebackers are shifted this way. And so it's like, this is Josh pre to post snap. He has to diagnose, okay, who's going to be taking this running back out of the backfield? Or are they just playing zone and dropping back and defending deep? Again, 3rd and 10 with the ball on the, I think it's 11 or 12-yard line. Where are we at? 12-yard line.
12-yard line.
So I'll let it roll, but I want you to watch because, again, you have basically only two defenders back there to cover the two to the Bills side, safety and then the corner. So post snap, look at what that safety does. So Knox has Sauce on him. He's eliminated. But look at the depth that this safety is playing with. So this rail route is kind of taken away. There's really no way, especially if it's a predetermined rail route, which it looks like it is, because if it wasn't, he would probably be banging over the middle here. But I think it's predetermined. It's something that we saw them working on with Hines in practice, to be honest, in the practice film. But you see, there's no one open. I mean, they're running basically, double ins here and then another double in with Davis. So all of that is bracketed really well because they loaded this zone with all those defenders. It's all taken away. Josh is forced to run it. And of course, he gets right to the goal line. They score in the next play. But I just wanted to show like how they disguise things. Like from the jump, you don't know if the Jets have anyone assigned. And you can see Sauce pointing to him right now. He's like, hey, you have Hines right there. So it's a good disguise, and it's something the Jets did all game.
Yeah, it's a good combo coverage. It's almost, if you're just focusing on Sauce, it's almost like he has that Meg responsibility there and just has Knox one-on-one, and then Whitehead covers over the top on Hines. It would have been fantastic in hindsight if it was an option for Hines and he's able to bang that inside, like you mentioned. But exactly to your point, like you're wondering, okay, who's taking Nyheim Hines and where's he coming from? And then it just happens. This is also where like I don't want to say luck, but bad timing comes into play. Like this coverage is perfect for the play that the Buffalo Bills are running. Like if it is an option for Naheem Hines, then he gets to bang that inside, but it's not. So he runs that rail route, that wheel out of the backfield. And because of Whitehead's depth, it's eliminated right away. And then Sauce knocks out, and then you're looking to the bottom and you've got 5 over 3.
Yeah.
So like, where are you going if you're Josh Allen? And then you combine that with some penetration.
This is the same exact coverage the Bills played on Taron Johnson's interception.
Yup.
This is the same exact coverage. They loaded the zone to the side, to the passing strength. They locked these guys to the top of the screen. It's literally the same exact coverage. And
the Lamar Jackson interception.
No, I'm talking the Chiefs game. It's the same type of thing, right? But just going the other direction. Because the routes broke inside instead of outside. So it's, dude,
combo coverage. It works. Like if you're able to overload that side and then lock the backside or that into the boundary spot with man coverage. And again, this is a piece we've seen, like you mentioned it, we saw it in the Chiefs game. We've seen it from the Bills over the years because you have Tre'Davious White and you can play that Meg coverage. Now the Jets have somebody in Sauce Gardner and they have a pretty good number 2 in DJ Reed. Yeah. And then if you're just also playing numbers on top of it, like it's a problem. Like this is another one where they confused Josh a little bit / took away the reads with the good timing of the play call, and then they get pressure up front. Josh just, like a normal QB is dead to rights there. Yeah. Josh just makes a play because he's a unicorn, but like this should have been a win for the Jets defense. It was well executed, well designed, great timing of the call, and again, very similar to the Buffalo Bills, and it sucks when it's being used against you.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's especially in the red zone, man. It's that's really good stuff. So we're going to fast forward to the end of the first quarter here. This is another one of those shot calls from an under center call. You're going to see Diggs in the slot, basically running a deep corner sail type route there with a curl route from Davis. But you see everyone's expanding. That's cool. Everyone's expanding. You know, it's first down. Josh says, you know what? I'm just going to take the check down. Look at the distance and cushion between the defender and James Cook. So Josh says, you know what? All right, you took away the deep shot. I'm going to check it down to Cook. What does he do? He basically moves the chains there. So this is in the first quarter, in the first half. Josh was taking these type of plays in the first half. As you'll see later, not so much in the second half.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's like, this play is beautiful because it works with what we've seen Josh Allen do this year, which is take what is being given to him. And the Jets almost like F the flats on this one. Like they don't care. They play Davis and they play Diggs, and he takes the check down. And you, like you said, you just don't see that later. Like he's got Devin Singletary or one of the running backs underneath, or Dawson Knox in the low intermediate, and he's just trying to push it downfield too much, trying to take that extra shot. And what's a real interesting point about this game, so on the year, Josh Allen's average depth of target is 9.3. In this game against the Jets, his average depth of target was 12.1. That's only his third game this year with an average depth of target over 10 yards. One of them was the Steelers game at 14.9, where he was just slinging it downfield every other play. The other one was last week against Green Bay, where he was also pressing and taking shots. No other game this year has Josh Allen had an average depth of target above 8.9. You really saw him try and push the ball downfield a lot when teams, we started saying it last year, and it's the same thing this year. They're going to give him the space underneath. I don't know why I said spice, the space underneath, and make him try and dink and dunk and be efficient. And at times he's not, and he's pressing. And this was a great example of what happens when he does take advantage of it. And as we go through later, we'll see what happens when he doesn't.
Yeah, and again, I think that comes back to Dorsey. Like we early in the year against those teams like the Rams and whatnot that had really good fronts, they did some things to get the ball out of his hands, right? To do stuff after the catch in the short area, and they were doing some really nice motion, which has pretty much been non-existent after that first game.
Yep.
They're like, I want to say 19th right now in pre-snap motion, and so they're not good in that area. So, and then just again, I get first down play action shot calls. I love it. I don't necessarily like the spacing of this wide receiver, this combo right here, this two-man route. I don't like that spacing, especially against this secondary and scheme when you're talking about Salah and that defense. Like, I don't like this. Now, you could argue that if Josh holds it a little longer, yeah, maybe hits this. But again, that's a hell of a throw. He can do it. but I just don't like that spacing because it leaves Josh a little too much time to think about, okay, is there enough space in between this? Can I fit this in there? It's not decisive. It's a hard read and decision. And then of course throw that Josh has executed before, but I like this play. He checks it down. He gets it to one of his weapons underneath. And then again, Cook can do something with it after the catch. But it's something that will dissipate in the second half here. And
real quick, you were 100% spot on. So the Bills have run pre-snap motion 42% of the time this year, which is 19th in the entire NFL. And if you go to their numbers last year, 39% last year, which was 22%.
Yeah, they weren't. They were 22nd last year.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And if you look at, I think the first game they were higher, I want to say, than the average that they have now. It's
this year against the Rams?
Yeah, this year against the Rams.
You know what I can do, Eric, is I can change this fantastic data here on SIS. And yes, they were higher. They were at 52% against the Los Angeles Rams to start this year, which is 10 percentage points higher than what their current on-season average is for pre-snap motion.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Big
all right.
difference.
So yeah, I think that's something they didn't incorporate a little more. Obviously to move Diggs around, but to also force the defense to have to process that as the ball is being snapped. And usually those type of things, they happen bang, bang. If you're snapping the ball while that motion is just finishing up, that adjustment has to be made. And then who knows, guys just uncover. And I think that's something, we have talked about it. He's done it a decent amount, but not enough, especially when you're talking about these teams that want to play those too high looks and just make you dink and dunk. Like, start using it a little more, which I think they will. I honestly do think they will. So let's move on to the second quarter, top of the second quarter here. It's a 3rd and 10 situation. This was the drop from Gabriel Davis to the bottom. I mean, man, I don't know what is up with this guy this year, man. It's been frustrating. Yes, he's had drops on his resumes, but he's also had those explosive plays and unreal catches, unreal body control and tracking type plays to kind of offset that. But now, if you're only having these type of plays, it's going to be magnified a little more. And I think fans got at him the last couple of days on social media.
Yeah, a little bit. He was, I think this is one of those games where everybody's upset. So
yeah, find the scapegoat.
Yeah. And so exactly, like who can you yell at? Who can you take your anger out on? And Gabriel Davis had a drop here, a drop at the end of the game on the last throw of the game. It's, I think Matt Waldman did that breakdown where he's clapping at the ball, which is something that he did a little bit in college and we saw early in his career.
Yeah, he's always caught it like that. And one thing that, I mean, if you guys, I posted it in the game against the Chiefs last year when Josh threw that cover 0 Hail Mary to the middle of the end zone and floated it as the blitz was coming. You can see his hand, normally he has one hand behind the ball and the other hand, it's not normally framed like that, He has one hand kind of stopping the trajectory of the ball. Then it's weird how he catches. I've always found it interesting, but yes, it sometimes creeps up and he ends up dropping it. But more times than not, he's quite reliable, especially on some of those tougher throws and fastballs that Josh Allen throws, because again, that comes in hand, no pun intended, when you have the hand behind the ball to kind of stop the ball. But dude, he's got to come up with some of the other plays to kind of offset that, and he just hasn't.
Yeah, and you know what's a shame too? He had at the end of the first half, he had a real nice sliding catch that he dug out of the ground. Yeah. So you have that ability, and I've seen some of the numbers about his career reception percentage, but I also think some of that is skewed by the fact of how much of a downfield target he is, and the further you are downfield, the odds of completion go down significantly, not just because of the receiver, but also because of the quarterback. But I think it's just this is one of those games where the drops that he had, not only was there like multiple, but they were in significant moments and they were readily available to see. And it's frustrating in a game where you needed every ounce of help for Josh Allen and kind of cost him a little bit, but he'll come up with like 2 catches for like 105 yards and a touchdown next week. And everybody will forget.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, it's a week-to-week league. I mean, early in the year, everyone was praising him for his 98-yard reception and all those plays. It just, when you lose and you have, like you said, those moments where you're messing up and you have mistakes and it's costing your team, you're gonna have to
everybody needs that. Everybody needs that vessel to focus their anger in on it. This game, it was Gabe Davis, it was Jaquan Johnson. Some people put it into Tremaine Edmonds still because of course they did. Everybody needs a vessel to funnel that anger into so they can feel better about the loss. It's like, oh, we lost. What do I do with my anger? Okay, who do I blame?
Yeah, and moving on to this call, touchdown run from Josh Allen here. And this was one of those moments, again, where I think I got to give kudos to Dorsey, because this was a hell of a call in a 3rd and 2 situation, a really predictable call, but Dorsey kind of ran it like Dable used to. And I'm always going to bring up Dable because I still think Dable overall thus far is still a predominantly better play caller. But 3rd and 2 situation, it sets up as if, that power, that pin and pull run from Josh Allen's coming. But much like Dable used to do, is he ran, like Dorsey called this when they expected man coverage. And when you can get man coverage against this look and this play, you're going to get a numbers advantage, not just a spatial advantage out into the boundary. So the Bills align in a trip set to the bottom of the screen. They have Devin Singletary and Knox to the top of the screen. But as I said, with man coverage, they motion out Singletary. And that
motion.
Pulls,
use it more.
Yeah, use it more. That pulls Mosley out of the box. And so now they get 2 pullers and Morse and Saffold there. And you have a really big run there. But I want to show it from the end zone angle because it's just absolutely beautiful. So again, down block from Dawkins. Prior to snap, you're going to see this guy shift inside. And that is because of the motion. As early in the play right here, you have Devin Singletary to Allen's left. That is essentially, if they were to run this play and he's leading out that way, you got to think about it like they would be adding an extra gap. So they need to have all those gaps accounted for because you have the runner and Josh Allen. But as Singletary goes out to the wide side of the field and you see that defensive end go inside that into that C gap, that's because now they don't have that. They don't have to account for that gap. They have, just the runner there. And so he would have that gap. He'd have that gap and they're gapped out and they're perfect. There's no other blockers until you account for these pullers here. And so they got Sauce as basically the force there. He gets easily kicked out there by Saffold, and then it's off to the races for Josh Allen.
Yeah, Jermaine Johnson kicks inside there and basically makes it easier for himself to be pinned on the outside. And then exactly like you said, it's off to the races. Great job. It's so funny. Like I don't think we even planned it, but talking about the pre-snap motion. And then here's an example. Granted, it's not in the past, but you get it in the run game. And also this action right here in the run game, this is what we saw from Green Bay and a little from the Jets in this game to manipulate the Bills front and put them into disadvantageous positions with leverage or pull defenders from the box, which we'll get into. This time the Bills did it. Clear numbers advantage, not to mention you're removing gaps and adding some, and then you get the individual matchup advantages like a pulling guard on a corner and just exactly like you said, well-designed, but more importantly, well-timed of when it was called and how it was deployed. And a huge piece to put the Bills up 14-3 in this game. And then, of course, you see Josh Allen finishing it in the open field against a safety who, in theory, should have the angle on him and just does not.
There's a little flip that he does at the end, very Zay Jones-like.
I was going to say when Zay Jones did like
that?
Pop-up, it was wild. Yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I said this is a timely call. This is a good call from Dorsey. This was one of those calls in a critical situation that kind of reminds me of like the screen out to Devin Singletary coming out of the timeout versus the Ravens. Like this was one of his better timed calls, based on the situation. So I'll give him kudos on that. I don't think he had the best game plan overall, but there were some nice calls in early portion of the game. So with that said, let's go. This is right before half, I believe. So 23 seconds left in the second quarter. This is a route we've talked about, a route combination, sail, flood, whatever you want to call it, to the bottom of the screen. Very simple. You have Cook in the backfield in the 2-minute drill. And as I said, going in, the Jets are a quarters team. This is, what they're doing here. Here's a push call. Now he's got him. This is exactly what the Bills do. This is exactly what the Bills do in their quarters coverage. And you see Josh, as McKenzie takes the top off the coverage here, takes Sauce just long enough. You see Knox running that out route. It's a nice throw from Josh. Good recognition, good timing. This is the type of stuff we wish we would have seen from Josh Allen and the Bills offense a lot more in this game against the Jets.
Yeah, and even on this play, that's like a nice completion. Sauce almost still makes this play like he sees it and he just gets sticky feet.
The
and
way
plants.
He can flip is just unreal for his size.
He's so long in his legs, but he's not stiff. Like he's so fluid and he's so mobile. And for somebody who usually, if you're a long strider, it takes you more steps to break down. It does not for him. He's able to stop in that bail and just chop, turn and open that hip and give that slow turn and almost make a play on this ball. Like a real quality corner. But again, yeah, takes advantage of the coverage. McKenzie runs him off just enough. And it would have been nice to see this more, especially as they worked in these zone coverages. Like, where is cover 4 or quarters, vulnerable? It's in that intermediate area. If you can flood that zone and you try to attack that spot. And as the Jets played more of this cover 4 type of look, and especially these 2-eye looks, but especially with the cover 4, if the Bills could have attacked that more with more levels and more layering to their route concepts with more guys on the sides, could have potentially yielded some better results.
Yeah, and so here's the second interception. What Josh Allen called was basically a brain fart, and it looks that way on film too. So you see it at the bottom of the screen. Tight alignment from Gabriel Davis. He's releasing outside, as is James Cook coming from the backfield on essentially an option route. He just hooks it up. But as Gabriel Davis clears Sauce, watch the route that he runs. He doesn't just run. I don't know what happened here. I don't know if Davis thought it was a different coverage or not. But versus this too high look, this Tampa 2, you would think that Davis, once he clears him, was just going to keep running up the sideline there. But for some reason, he runs out. And it really doesn't matter because Josh throws it into this area where Sauce, he's got vision on Cook. He's got eyes on Josh, and he's able to kind of soften up and then get the interception with no one around him. So I don't know if this was a miscommunication between Davis and Allen, but either way, on second down here, a 2nd and 17, you don't have to go for the whole shot. Even if Davis was there, you can easily just take this, right? Take that and have Cook do something with the ball in his hands. Instead, he goes for Davis, and it's intercepted from Sauce.
Josh took a sack on the play right before on this one. And this, again, with what we've seen these last couple of weeks, it makes me think, was he trying to press a little bit too much here? Like, he easily could have taken the check down to Cook, lived to fight another day. Also might even gain some yardage if Cook can make that first defender miss and then get upfield for a couple more yards. Like, live to fight another day. Try to get down to like 3rd and 11, 10, 9, somewhere in that area. He's got the option with Cook, but kudos to Sauce for being able to space the route distribution out here and being able to influence Josh. And yeah, I don't know if Josh didn't see Sauce, if he thought Sauce was sitting more, closer to Cook and he could fit it in there. But exactly to your point, you've got the option of, or that not the option, you've got that miscommunication potential of he throws it to a spot where Gabriel Davis is not. So whoever was wrong on this play, either way, it comes down to an interception. And I also like how you had highlighted the mugged up A-gap look from the Jets on this one, which again, similar to what the Buffalo Bills do, just influencing that offensive line a little more. And then you watch those linebackers drop from depth and you see Mosley get underneath and get onto Knox and influences the offensive line. And the Jets run a game again, get pressure on Josh Allen, which was a theme we saw this second half.
Yeah. And just look where the ball snapped and then how the defensive line reestablishes the line of scrimmage. Look how they, run a little twist with Quinn Williams and then just the pocket's right in his face. I mean, and at that speed, with how quick and aggressive and physical that defensive line is, Josh, he was on the clock here. Like, he had to get rid of it. So that definitely played a part in this. But those double mug looks, that's something we're going to see a lot more of because we saw the physicality and violence that the defensive line that the Jets played with and how they pushed the pocket into the face of the quarterback. Using those double mug looks will do that. That'll get a lot of one-on-ones for guys to run those games and speed up the clock of Josh Allen. And you saw what it played and how it played out on that play to Sauce Gardner. So 2nd and 14 situation here. And now we are in the fourth quarter. So 8:19 on the clock. And this is another one of those plays like that one. 2nd and 17, 2nd and long, 2nd and 14 here, where just take the profit, right? They always say just take the profit. So you see a deep over route and then 2 big in routes. And you have, Knox and Singletary helping with chip releases there. And Josh Allen wants to throw it down the field to Diggs. I think it's Diggs right here. And it's almost intercepted. It's a throw he doesn't need to make. He doesn't need to make this. Why? Because he has a shallow crossing route or, just a check release right here from Singletary. Take any of those guys. Take that and live to see another day, 3rd down. And maybe they do break it, a tackle or 2 and get the first down. But either way, you don't need to be forcing it down the field here. You have 2 guys wide open here. He locked in down the field to Diggs and damn near had to pay for it because it was dropped. It was dropped. It was one of those turnover worthy plays from Whitehead. He almost got a second.
And the whole idea behind having that chip help, but then still releasing the chippers into the route distribution is to, well, one, you get to influence the, 4-man rush and give some help to the O-line, but then they're your natural outlets and checkdowns if the vertical options don't work. Like
Yeah,
you get
and it worked. Look at how much time he has now.
boom, he's got the pocket. The Rams did this so much last year en route to a Super Bowl. Like they would run this chip help look, and the 3 receiving options that aren't the chippers, they're getting downfield with these vertical concepts. And then the chippers are underneath. And Matt Stafford did such a great job of hitting one of them and just taking what the defense would give them, whether it was first down, second down, or third down. This throw, again, recognizing the situation, which is fair, but it's another example of Josh just as this game went on, he stopped taking James Cook in the flats like we saw early in this game, and he started pressing downfield and pressing downfield, and it really came to bite him because they weren't staying ahead of the sticks, and when they were down, they stayed down and they stayed back because he was pushing for low percentage throws.
Yeah, and I think this is the last play here. So this is a deep shot. Again, either a shot call or a rush scramble from Josh Allen. That's kind of what it felt like. And so to the top of the screen, you see Diggs get behind the corner, man. And Josh takes a big drop here, takes a big 5-step drop here, and then has to hitch up in the pocket because of the little game that they have coming right here. So he has to step up, and I get it, and then reset his feet. But, I mean, Diggs is gone. This is a touchdown. But Josh underthrows it a little bit, and I would have liked to see Diggs kind of play back and at least try to draw a pass interference call. But this is just, you just knew he was off because earlier in the year, he was hitting these plays for touchdowns and in big moments. On this one, he looked a little hurried, didn't really get a chance to set his feet completely. He leaves this one a little short and it goes incomplete.
Quarterbacks don't attack 20 yards downfield too often, but it was telling how much Josh did in this game and how inaccurate he was. On the year, 13.8% of Josh Allen's throws have come 20 yards or more downfield. He has a completion percentage of 46.3 on those throws. Okay, so 13.8% of his throws have come 20 yards or more.
I'd imagine that's pretty good, right?
That is fantastic. That's towards the top of the league.
Yeah.
In this game against the Jets, though, 23.5% of his throws came 20 yards or more, almost a full 10 percentage point increase. But of those throws that were 20 yards or more, he was only 1 of 8. His accuracy downfield took a huge dip in this game. Now, whether it was the influence of pressure up front, which was significant in this game, or some of it I think has to be placed on Josh. Some clips we didn't show, he had some inaccurate throws throughout this game, and he had some opportunities that were there, just wasn't on typically like we see him, or I guess at this point expect him to be, given how good he's been. But I also love the shout out, well, negatively, I guess, to Stephon Diggs. Like, I think you got to go and try and get this one. The coverage is too close for you to let this ball come to you. You have to attack this ball.
Same with Davis, right? On that one of those last plays, like he could have done the same exact thing. Like he could have done that too. And again, maybe it doesn't get called, but I mean, force him to call it. Like sell it. Like this is an art. Like it's a fine art. It's a dark arts, but that works. Like force them to call it. And I think both of those guys could have done it here, and they just didn't. They kind of waited to play with late hands, which is always a good thing, but not in this situation.
No, and especially when like waiting for the ball like that is what you do when you've got like 4 or 5 yards of separation. And Diggs did not have it on this one, and Gabe Davis did not have it on the very last play of the game against Sauce Gardner. Like you can't let it come to you like that. And in today's day and age where the league is skewed towards the offense, well, you hear it all the time on the broadcast. Like if you try and fight back through the defender, you don't even have to like ham it up or act up too much. Like if you're just playing back through the defender and they don't turn their head, you're done. Like it's a flag, and then you get the ball, spot foul, and there you go. So again, a lot of little breadcrumbs that we start to connect, and it's not all one singular thing, but it's a multitude of little things that are adding up to create large scale and wholesale inefficiencies.
And this is a great question. Autumn asks, why do you think that Josh was so adamant about pushing it downfield? I think it ties into what we talked about at the top. I think that, there were times where he's just under pressure, and instead of just hitting a check down, he was just throwing it down the field. And whether it was an alert ball or just late and someone's running deep, like he was just trying to push it down the field as almost like a throwaway, but not really. I'm not going to give him that much credit. Like he was just trying to get rid of the ball. because he was under duress. And I think that more times than not was, the takeaway I had about it. In regards to that question, what do you think, Ant?
I'm in a similar boat. I think the pressure altered his mindset. I think there's, correlation doesn't necessarily prove causation, but I don't think it's a coincidence that as this game went along and the pressure got more intense, him pushing the ball downfield more increased. He stopped looking for the check down. He stopped looking for the intermediate and the underneath and started pushing it downfield more. And I think it was a result of having pressure in his face, knowing kind of what he had and just kind of throwing it up and slinging it a little bit. I'm sure there was also some mentality pieces of it as well, of him trying to like get some things back and kind of jumpstart this offense, which was a little sluggish at point. But I'm in a similar boat. I think a lot of it was tied to the pressure that he was seeing.
And all things considered, with the defense that they play and the scheme that they play, that's the type of defense that wants to, just like the Bills, take away those deep shots and explosives. And they had the D-line and wave of defensive linemen to do things like the Bills do, the same type of philosophy. So if you have that many shots deep and they're not getting completed, and you could see that some of the context with some of the plays we broke down where he was pressing it when he didn't need to, and that was him. He was obviously in his own head. That pressure was in his head, and he was just pushing it a little too much. He was pushing the envelope a little too much. And honestly, he was lucky to only get away with 2 interceptions there, because there were plenty of opportunities for the Jets to have more.
Yeah, he made some other questionable throws in this game. And yeah, I think that's a fair point to say that the Jets could have come away with some more interceptions. But again, kudos to them for a good game plan, good execution, front to back, coverage, and the front. It was unfortunate to see the performance for the Buffalo Bills offense, but we'll see what they do going forward against the Minnesota Vikings. And now we're going to pivot to the defensive side of the ball. But before we do that, Erik, we have a pretty cool announcement. As this brand continues to grow and prosper and progress in a lot of ways, we continue to pick up more attention and build more relationships with other brands and other people. And we've got another venture that we're proud to announce here in this episode.
Yeah. And you guys stay tuned. We have Mr. Greg Thompson with a quick read of one of our new partners and sponsors.
Hey guys, Cover One is excited to announce our new partnership with BetUS. BetUS has a live wagering on all major games, the best betting variety in the business, and an easy deposit and withdrawal process with the fastest payouts in the industry. Our loyal Cover One fans get a choice between 2 exclusive offers, either a 125% sign-up bonus on your first deposit up to $2,500 or a free $50 bet with no deposit required. Just use promo code COVER1 on the links provided in the show description below. BetUS, where the game begins.
Yeah, you can see Greg stepping up his background game. He's stepping up the camera game.
Feels like there's more hair gel in the hair, probably.
Yeah. He's feeling himself in that. No, he did a great job with that, and securing that great partner for us at Cover One. We're excited about partnering with them. As I said, Greg stepped up his background and whatnot, and we're stepping up our partnerships and people that we work with. We want to be involved in a little bit of everything. And they're a fun company, and I think if you guys go check out their website and use that promo code, I think you'll be really happy with what they have to offer.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any brand that Cover One has partnered with that didn't offer a quality product, and that partnership, that's where it stems from. It's not just a partnership for the sake of a partnership. It's because that brand offers something that we find valuable to the people that support us, the people that subscribe, the people that watch, that listen. So it's not a decision that was made lightly. So very happy to announce that partnership.
Yeah. So let's pivot now to the defense, man. I want to get your thoughts on where the defense went wrong. What was the carryover from the Packers game? We're going to show a bunch of that film. And just give me what you got, man, because this is going to be it's I don't want to say it's completely ugly, because when it comes to run defense and run fits, we actually like doing it. It takes a lot of time to diagnose and break down, but it's fun because it's almost like deconstructing something and seeing like, okay, who was supposed to be in this fit, who boxed on this play, who spilled on that play. Like, it's fun to kind of put the pieces back together on why something went wrong, versus when it's easy to just pick out the good plays, right? When you talk in offense or defense, it's a lot easier.
Oh yeah, tremendously. It's easier to figure out what went right than it is to figure out what went wrong. And we were talking off air about how long it took us to go through the defensive film for this week. One, because the Bills were on the field for a lot, but two, just there were some things that went wrong with the run fit aspect of this defense. The biggest takeaway for me is, ironically, the Jets offensive coordinator is a LaFleur and the brother of Coach LaFleur from the Green Bay Packers the week before, of course.
Yeah.
And you saw a lot of similar concepts in terms of how the Jets attacked the Bills. You saw some pre-snap motion. You saw the Jets using aspects of alignment, and especially in coupling with that motion of pulling Bills defenders from the box and figuring out, okay, if we do this motion, if we do this jet motion, they're going to shift. And when they shift to the left, we know we're running this run play to the right. And now all of a sudden we bump them over a gap because they pushed and now we have an advantage. Or just pulling defenders from the box and creating opportunities where you had 6 or 7 men on the line for the Jets and one less defender in the box, or even. How many times we in this game did we see, just like against the Packers, we saw 6 on the line for the Jets and 6 in the box for the Bills, or 7 on the line for the Jets, 7 in the box for the Bills? Now, people might think, well, that's cool. Like, it's 7 on 7. But that's not the way it works, because if you've got 7 men on the line for the Jets, that means there's 8 gaps. So if you only have 7 defenders in the box, that means there's 1 more gap than you have defenders. Then you add in the aspects of pullers and running gap schemes, and you're shifting gaps and moving gaps. And then on top of it, another big takeaway for me is this is another game where, not completely similar to what happened against the Colts, but where a team used the Bills' one-gapping penetration against them and allowed them to get upfield and create holes. I think both of us, we mentioned it in the offseason and at points this year, wanting the Bills to do more gap and a half. We've seen Daquan Jones do it several times this year. The Bills one gap more in this game, got upfield, and we saw some of those plays where they would kind of play into the Jets' hands, not to mention the run stunts and the run blitzes where they allowed themselves to get pinned. And it was just a lot of things that kind of went sideways and went wrong. And I wonder if teams continue to use that mode of attack against the Bills now that we've seen it work a couple times last year and again these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, as you said, the defense is a one gap up the field, attacking, aggressive, defensive, front especially. And so, yes, they're going to, especially like the 3-tech at Oliver, when they're putting Jordan Phillips there, they're not guys that are being asked to just occupy versus the run. They want them penetrating, being disruptive. And same with the linebackers. They specifically Milano, he's put in a situation where they allow him to freelance and really just fire his gun and make those tackles and be disruptive. It's a disruptive defense. So when teams counter them with gap runs, as you said, power, counter Trey, some pin and pull stuff, that really can outflank the defense, and specifically up the middle against those defensive tackles that are attacking up the field, which we'll see in the film. It takes a lot more discipline when you're playing against a gap run, and it really goes against their entire philosophy as an attacking style defense. Because they don't want them to not pin their ears back, whether it's run or pass. They want them being aggressive and being disruptive. So if they can't just penetrate and be disruptive because they have to worry about a back or down block, or they have to worry about a deuce block on the front side getting displaced vertically, not able to split that double team because it's a really good double team block, that goes against their entire nature as a unit and also as an individual put into that role. And so what the Bills tried doing is they ran a lot of run blitzes. Some people call them run stunts. I call them a run blitz because more times than not, if they send that 5th guy as a run blitzer, if it ends up being a pass, it's a blitz. So I always call it a run blitz. And we're going to see several of those. So people, were asking like, hey, and I think I see a comment right here. It says from Pete, my issue with the scheme was allowing the same run to burn us again and again. But the funny thing is, as you'll see, whether we're talking in this game or we're talking from the Packers to this game, when they were running those counter Trey runs, the Bills actually pulled out different things. They tried some of those run blitzes from the field or from the boundary. They tried inserting a guy late to, again, be disruptive, stay true to their scheme and their aggressiveness, but do something a little different to combat it. And the Packers still hit them once or twice. Yeah. And some of it was just pure luck, as you'll see in some of these. But some of them are just like, okay, that didn't work. We have to go back to the drawing board. So there were adjustments, guys, and you're going to see some of that. But aside from the scheme stuff, and the thing that's crept up almost every year really is missed tackles, right? In this game, they missed 12 tackles, according to PFF. And on the year, according to SIS, they have a 12.9 missed tackle percentage. And in prior years, so in 2021, it was 9.4%. So they're a little better last year. Year before that, 10.4%. And in 2019, they had a missed tackle percentage of 12.2. So when you have a game where you miss 12 tackles, 14 tackles, 16 tackles, they've done that a couple times this year. Usually it's missed tackles and missed run fits, being out of position, processing late to a play, and you're out of position not to make a proper tackle or wrap up. And we're seeing that every once in a while when it comes to the Bills defense, when early on the first few games, they're actually pretty good.
Yeah, I was going to say the majority of this year, because I think poor tackling has, like you mentioned, some of the numbers, it's unfortunately been like a hallmark of this defense the last couple of years. And we didn't really see it early on, especially against a team like the Chiefs and the multitude of games they played early on. Open field tackling and tackles in the holes and around the line of scrimmage was a strength of this defense, but we didn't see it against Green Bay. We saw it rear its ugly head against the Jets. And when you couple that with getting out gapped or allowing yourself to be pinned and taken advantage of internally, it just compounds your mistakes and it compounds the disadvantageous positions that you're in. And also with just the nature of how the Bills attack and that one gapping nature, one thing like I want to mention that I feel like people also forget too, even in this game against the Jets where the Jets ran the ball well, the Bills had several plays on defense where they created tackles for loss because their ability to penetrate and get upfield. So sometimes it really works. Even in a game where it was bad, they had multiple instances where they're getting stops for 2, 3, 4 yards in the backfield. But then you have to take the good with the bad. And sometimes it's that risk reward. And when it works, it's beautiful. And when it doesn't, you get gashed for like 15 yards.
Yeah. And so we're going to break down, I think there's like 8 or 9 plays here. So this is early in the game. We are looking at the first quarter, 2:03 on the clock. Jets do get a field goal on this drive, but this is a run blitz. And so you see the 4 down linemen, but you also see the safety coming down. There are different ways to present it. Sometimes it's a safety. Sometimes it's Taron Johnson. Sometimes it's a cat blitz, a corner coming off the edge, like the first play where Dane Jackson blew that up. That was a nice little run blitz from him in the boundary. But here, what you're going to see is you're going to see Lawson, Oliver, and Settle slant to the backside gap. And then you have Johnson coming off the edge. And so the Jets, they're running counter trays. So you have the tight end and you have the guard pulling to the boundary side. So this is a blitz, a run blitz from the field, the wide side of the field. And the Jets are running away from it, but you see the disruption that it creates. So here's Settle. Now he's occupying 2 because he hit that backside gap. You have Von Miller having to take on that blocker. And then you just see them, they just string it wide. The penetration by Ed Oliver, like look at him come across here and just
his slant is perfect.
Yeah, and that could have been a hold, which we'll talk about holes in this game. But either way, you see Edmonds and Bernard clean up on the back end. But that's what a run blitz looks like. You're sending the defensive lineman, slanting them backside, and then you're bringing a guy off the edge. Again, corner, safety, could be anyone coming off the edge. And this was one of those plays that worked. And the Bills ran this. I charted it. They ran this type of play 17 times. 9 of them were against the run, and they surrendered 25 yards against the run. They sent 8 of these that turned into passes. Again, this, regardless of what happens, run or pass, this is still a blitz if it's a pass. So it's counted as a blitz. They did it 8 times for 54 yards. The most notable one was when Saran Neal got matched up one-on-one with Garrett Wilson,
Not great.
Was 6. So I digress. I'm getting on a tangent here, but 17 times this happened. This play, it worked out well.
That's a huge piece, like real quick. That run blitz piece counting as like an overall blitz. This ties back into something we talked about last year where Mac Jones was one of the most blitz quarterbacks in the league. And it wasn't because teams were blitzing Mac Jones for the pass. They were run blitzing the Patriots run game. Exactly. But then it counts as a blitz still if it's play action or if he ends up throwing it and dropping back. So it skews numbers a bit.
Stats can lie.
Stats can lie, but the film does not. And this is really well done. Yeah, you get that run stunt, you get the slant inside. And this is when, again, this is what we're talking about here. Like when it works, it's beautiful. You create displacement, you get upfield. There's nowhere to go for the Jets on this play. James Robinson has nothing. The works are completely gummed up. Even though Miller doesn't make this play and Robinson breaks the tackle, you've got Edmonds and Bernard scraping over the top, and they're able to get there clean because of the chaos that the run blitz and the stunt up front created. It's a really nice timed call. It works out really well. But here's the thing too, like, and I'm sure we'll get to an example of it. Say the defense was slanting the other way. all of a sudden you're at a huge disadvantage because you're slanting into the pins and the down blocks, and then all of a sudden you're done. And if that happens, that's where you see some of those gouging runs and those gap runs. So that's where that risk reward comes in, like, because it's a risk where if it's timed wrong, you're going to get gashed. But the reward is if you time it right and call it against the right kind of run from the right side, like the Bills do on this play, it creates a negative play for your defense.
Yeah, and that's a great lead for pretty much most of these clips because, again, counter Trey away from the blitz, all right? Counter Trey away. This is the same exact play, as I'll show you in a few plays, that the Packers ran in the game last week, and they're getting 20, 30 yards a pop. Counter Trey, this one away from the blitz. You'll see both versions of this later in the breakdown here. So here's another play, another run play. This is a crack toss that gained 25 yards on this play. And this is where you start to see some of the missed tackles and the lack of not having Milano. But more importantly, I think Bernard did enough to be just fine at the linebacker position with no Milano. But not having Poyer really hurt the Bills here. Watch Jaquan Johnson, who I have circled on this crack toss. You see Dane Jackson get out leverage there, and then just the missed tackle. 1 of 3 on the day from Jaquan Johnson. I know that's your boy, but he had a rough day. But you can see as he comes downhill, he has a decision to make: shoot this gap or go out wide. And you see him get kind of caught in the wash, and right there, he's trying to string the play and leverage the play. He's doing a good job. But now is when you need him to turn on those jets, and he just doesn't have it. He's not in a position to make the tackle. Carter's a really good running back. He has good balance as well. He breaks that tackle for a nice game.
This play in a nutshell is like what, unfortunately, Jaquan Johnson is. Like, he's a dog around the line of scrimmage, but we'll just focus on this piece here. Like, he's a really smart player. Like, he reads this right. He watches Dane Jackson come inside on this play as he strings it along. So he sees Dane go inside, so he goes outside. But he has those athletic limitations. And against a running back, I love that you mentioned Carter. Carter's a sweet running back. When Breece Hall went down, I was like, okay, they're going to lean into Michael Carter. He's sweet. And then they traded for James Robinson. I was like, okay, maybe not. But Carter's got speed, right? They're stacked. Even Ty Johnson is a good running back. But Carter's got speed. He's got burst. So he's got long speed. He's got short area burst. And because he's shorter, he's got that contact balance and that low center of gravity. And you see him kicking into a different gear as he gets around the corner. And Jaquan Johnson just doesn't have that speed and that quickness to be able to get there and shut him down. He reads it right, but he's not able to get there. But that's also too, right? Like, that's a piece of the run fit aspect. Like, it's a coordinated dance. And if somebody is slightly off in their execution, it can blow up the whole run fit. Like, it's Jaquan Johnson on this play, but sometimes it's a defensive end. Sometimes it's an interior player like a defensive tackle or a linebacker. Like, run fits are a very complicated piece that's why it's a team defense piece. You know, Jaquan Jones talked about it when we had him. Like, it's complicated. It takes everyone. And on this instance, you know, it forced the play into Jaquan Johnson. He just didn't have the athleticism and the speed to be able to bring down Carter.
Yeah, and the other thing I want you guys to take note of on this crack toss, and last week, and I think Von Miller mentioned it in his presser after the game, is how on some of these runs, the Jets use 2 guys to block them and not one. And this is one thing that we talked about with Daquan and even some of the other film rooms, is how well the defensive line's playing against the run and how it's making the job easier for linebackers. But look at what they do on this crack. So you get the crackback block from Mims there. That's expected on this play schematically. But normally this guy is not doubling on Von. And the Jets did a great job in this game. And again, there's going to be some plays you're going to see is like, okay, that's a hold on Lawson. And it happened twice because Jack Lawson is one of the best edge setting defensive ends in the game. And they did something similar to this on him on a couple of times. And again, I think a hold should have been called. But keep this in mind, because this is something that the Jets did really well to get the ball in the perimeter. The Jets had 9 rushing attempts outside the tight ends here, outside on the perimeter for 70 yards. This was one they broke off. But they were able to do these things to seal the edge there, to seal the really good defensive ends for the Bills that do a good job at setting the edge. But in this game, they just didn't. So keep an eye on that. Again, these little nuggets that LaFleur kind of put in there to secure things for that run game.
And you know what it's similar to? Some of the runs that the Colts had last year where they set it up so that it would be Jonathan Taylor one-on-one against Tre'Davious White, because they would set up those traps and those down blocks to take out the edge and the linebacker and put those bigger bodies blockers on defensive backs or one-on-one opportunities. It's a smart little wrinkle teams can do if they can anticipate what the Bills normally try to do.
Right. And so here's another run blitz from the field, 2:26 left in the second quarter, 3rd-and-1 situation. This is a big play. So the Jets run inside zone right here. The Bills are sending, again, these guys are all slanting inside. They're having Hamlin come off the edge. This is when it works. It's beautiful. Like you said, it forces 4th down here. And I think this is the one. Is this the one where they faked it and got it? Either way, 3rd-and-1 situation here. Hamlin, again, coming late. Those guys are slanting inside. There's nowhere to go inside. He's
beautiful.
Forced to kind of bounce it, and Hamlin's there to make the tackle. Hell of a player. I think he's a future starter in this league. He's been playing great in the Bills scheme here. Hamlin brings down the running back on that run blitz.
He times this up perfectly. Like, you can watch him start to creep and anticipate it, and then he just shoots it. But, and I don't want to take away from Hamlin, but I want to highlight the team. Oh, beautiful. The sideline angle. Like, watch Hamlin as he doesn't completely give it away, and then he times it, and he is so good at timing these run blitzes. He started it against Miami. He's continued it.
Packers last week in the hole or in the game against A.J. Dillon.
He's really good. And he showed, again, I don't think it's surprising. Like, he showed this at Pitt, and Pitt, that Pat Narduzzi defense, a very easy transition to the NFL for him and Dane Jackson. But you see that well-timed blitz. He comes down on a proper angle with force, makes the tackle. But for me, like, I know he ends up on the ground. AJ Epinesa, that slant inside, Robinson has nowhere to go but to go to DeMar Hamlin. Plus, you combine that with Ed Oliver inside. Ed Oliver slants inside, rips through that arm. The middle is completely gone, right? And then between the guard and tackle is also completely gone. Now that B gap is done because AJ Epinesa has slanted through. This is like the
keep that in mind. And keep that in mind because it comes into play later.
Big time. This is a play, I think, where in a vacuum, someone sees it and is like, man, this is an amazing play by DeMar Hamlin. But this happens because of the other puzzle pieces being Ed Oliver and also AJ Epinesa. Their play forces James Robinson to DeMar Hamlin. Hamlin has to execute, which he does, but that was well-timed and well-designed, and that's how team defense works in run fits, which is what they are.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, it reminds me of the draft footage when they had him in the hotel room and Eric, I think it was Eric Washington interviewing him, and he was asking him about his technique, and he was talking about first step being horizontal, then vertical. That's exactly what that is. He was talking about a run blitz that Iowa uses. Again, a similar system you talked about in Narduzzi at Pitt. So does Iowa, and they asked Epinesa to do that a lot. And it reminds me of that draft footage in the hotel room when they were interviewing him. So we're going to go to the fourth quarter. All right. So obviously this is what it came down to. Like, if you go and watch the locker room speech from Saleh, this is the first game ball he gave away. It was this drive in the fourth quarter. Bills couldn't make a stop. So fourth quarter, 7:53 on the clock. The Jets are backed up, man. This is an ideal situation. And you see another run blitz called. They're running the counter Trey. Again, same play the Packers had run. And honestly, the Packers did it out of a 2-back set with Dillon and Jones, and then they would motion Dillon that way. And here, I think they used Elijah Moore as kind of that eye candy. Either way.
Yeah, it's the only thing Elijah Moore did in this game.
Yeah, that was an awesome clip. Whoever did that was a funny clip. A highlight reel of him doing orbit motion. And
with the fire emojis.
Oh, man, that was funny. So counter Trey into the blitz. So you have the tight end and the guard pulling into the blitz, and you see what happens here. And the Bills actually do a good job on this play. So you got the slanting Epinesa here, right? He's got to get across the face of that guy. That guy says, oh, guess what? I'm just going to wash you down. So he throws him. So immediately that hole is now wide open. But watch, Daquan Jones does a great job at nose tackle here. He recognizes it right there. He recognizes that block coming down on him, and he fights fire with fire and tosses that guy. That's great. Like, he wants to go make a play. Awesome. You have the linebackers coming up. You have Bernard boxing the play in. Beautiful. So what is he doing? Playing outside in. He wants to take on that block with the inside shoulder, keep that runner inside. The Bills have this guy hemmed in. But bad luck here. Daquan Jones trying to make a play, cuts off Edmonds, takes Edmonds out of the play after the runner ran up the back of his blocker. That's just dumb luck right there. And then he gets upfield, gets them out of a jam there with their backs against a goal line. Like, it was just an unfortunate play. But as you can see, how little things just add up to not necessarily, this is not even really a horrible run fit. This was just bad luck. Daquan Jones was about to make a play, but then he runs into his own guy, takes Edmonds out. It's just unfortunate on this play because the Bills had it hemmed in.
And you can see Edmonds come up and Phil, he sees Daquan Jones coming, so he shifts a little bit. Like, this play is dead to rights. It's done. And James Robinson bounces back because Bernard jacks up Uzama. So,
he
like
did
you
that
said,
all day too.
Bernard, I saw some people in the chat talking about how Bernard had a horrible game. I disagree, and I know you do as well, especially for it being his real first game action. And Robinson runs up the back of Uzama, but it causes him to back up a little bit.
Yep.
It messes up the angle of Daquan Jones, and he literally goes over James Robinson. Robinson's able to duck underneath him now because of the momentum, and he's stopped, but Daquan Jones is still going. And then Daquan Jones cuts off Tremaine Edmonds.
Yeah.
And it's done. And then you mentioned it to me on Twitter.
Yeah, watch
as this
the
play
look.
goes on, watch Tremaine Edmonds just be like, dude, looking back at Daquan Jones. But it's unfortunate. And this is an example too. I mean, someone will probably be like, well, you guys, always do this. If you're watching this play and your takeaway is, man, Tremaine Edmonds sucks and he fits the run horribly, that's not the takeaway. That's not the right takeaway. You mentioned it. Then this is another great example. This is one of those plays where all the little breadcrumbs and all these things work out negatively in this aspect, but this play does not work because of one person. It's just literally bad luck. Look at if you showed this clip to someone and said, how many yards did this run go for? Maybe someone's like, well, maybe he falls forward and gets 1 or 2. The odds of you being like, oh, well, he gets 12, 13 yards on this run. Who's betting that? No one's betting that because this play looks dead to rights. It's just bad luck. And I know that's not enough for some people, especially when your team loses and you want blood and you want to know who to blame and who to call out. But that was a good call, and it was actually set up well. It just happened to not work.
All right. And so you guys are seeing the screen now, and you're probably like, well, why you have Packers footage up here? I wanted to show you guys what the Bills did differently. Obviously, we showed you them running that run blitz against the counter Trey looks. And so I wanted to show you what happened the prior week. And so, Anthony, you talked about it. Some of the things the Packers did to pull guys out of the box. So this little action here pulls Taron Johnson out of the box. So now it becomes a 6-man box. They run that counter Trey. Tight end, guard, pulling, and you can see what happens on this play. Now, again, you talked about being short in the box. They are short a man in the box here, and so everyone's covered up here. And so that's when the running back hit it here. So when people say, well, it just really bugged me that, the Jets did the same exact plays that worked but from the Packers. Well, guess what? The Bills did try to do something different. It just things like that happen. The Daquan Jones play like that, it was just unfortunate at times. Sometimes, yes, it was there was some fault, missed tackles and whatnot. But you see here, like this play from the Packers game, same exact play we already broken down several times. I just wanted to show you guys, how different it was versus the Jets and why things happen, that context. So now we go back to the Jets game, right? So here it is again, counter Trey. This is like the damn near same play, right? Counter Trey away from the blitz. You have Johnson coming from the left side from the field here. So now watch what happens on this play. Again, keep an eye on Daquan Jones, who I have circled, and then the tight end coming across the formation. So Bills have this gummed up, right? Here are the guys slanting inside. Here comes the blitz from the secondary. But watch what happens. You talked about Epinesa getting across the face that one play. This play, he doesn't. And so everything is gummed up to the front side here. Everything is taken away. This is all taken away. Tremaine Edmonds is flowing with the tight end because the Bills are in man coverage. So as that tight end comes across, he's flowing with him. What happens is Epinesa doesn't get across the face of this guy. And then what opens up? That gap. And that's when the running back can cut up inside. There's a hold right there.
Huge hold.
Phillips. It's not called. And the Jets are into the third level. So here's the context and nuance from this game. Same exact play. Bills sent a blitz on this one. You see what happens when a guy, Daquan Jones was asked after the game, what happened? Missed tackles and run fits. Here's a missed run fit by Epinesa, and it cost him on this play.
And this is too, I had a couple people come through and say, oh, this is on Jaquan Johnson for the bad run fit, and it's not. He's filling on that outside, and even more so, watch Jaquan Johnson come down because you hit it. He sees Epinesa. Epinesa is going inside. So Johnson has to stay outside. If they both go inside, go ahead.
Also, there's that that zone read piece.
Yes,
he is
so
also the QB keeper.
Thank you. He has to honor
because he's slanting inside.
Correct. And that's a very viable thing against Zach Wilson, who has legs and is mobile and can use them. So Johnson does his job, and Epinesa looks like he's about to do his, and Dwayne Brown is just really big and really strong. Locks him right up. Epinesa cannot get through. And that's the big one. Like, I don't like to be that person that goes through and, well, this should have been a flag, and this play is dead if Jordan Phillips doesn't get held. Like, he literally gets grabbed and bear hugged. You can see his jersey getting yanked up on the back too. He gets grabbed around his arm. It's an unfortunate flag that isn't thrown. But again, that's where you can see, like, if you're off in your run fit just a little bit, all it takes is one person to be off in some way and things can crumble a little bit. Then you have the added piece of a hold that wasn't called on this play. And it's just a beautiful alley for James Robinson to get north and south.
Yeah, unfortunate for the Bills again. This is one of those drives, like, you just got to get them off the field, and they just couldn't. So next play is obviously same drive. This is a lot to process for a defense, especially the linebackers. This is the same type of plays that the Rams used versus the Bills. Was it 2-3 years ago? Maybe it was 2020. It was week 3 where Henderson went off. They used the same type of thing. So you got the jet action across the formation, but then post snap, you have the split flow from the tight end coming across the crack, the backside defensive end. But again, I mentioned earlier, Mims' alignment. You check it here. Watch Shaq Lawson on this play. We alluded to it earlier. So split zone here, and watch what Mims does to Lawson. So Lawson he's all over it. He's all over this play. He's like, I got to set the edge. I got to contain this play. They're running that wide zone with, the split coming across the formation, the sift block from the tight end. So you see him recognize it, but Mims is there to slow him up, allows Brown to get up on him. And again, I talk about, like, that was a great job from Shaq Lawson. He just didn't have the legs there, but more importantly, neither did Jaquan Johnson here. Watch Johnson. Yeah. Everyone the gaps are pretty lined up really nicely, but that action with the jet action, the receiver coming across the formation, but also this sift block from the tight end, that's what the Bills call a back call. So both the linebackers and even Johnson on this play at the second level, they have to bump over a couple gaps because of those gaps being added, just like pullers, right? So that puts the playmakers in this defense on the backside of a play like this. So Edmonds and Bernard aren't even in the play here. It's left up to Johnson here, and hope, this is Hamlin or Poyer, there's a good chance that guy's getting taken down. But now you're relying on Johnson to, again, chase Michael Carter down. He doesn't have it. Carter gets the corner and a big run.
Yeah, this is an example of, again, something that the Packers did the previous week, like forcing the Bills to play slower a little bit and using some of their fast flowing nature as a defense and using that against them. And by having them have to honor that flash and that misdirection of the tight end there, all it takes is that slight bit of hesitation. And when you got a running back that has real juice like Michael Carter, boom, he can go. Like, you have the arrows like perfectly diagrammed. Like, if John, and look where Johnson's head is at. He sees Uzama flashing across, and he hesitates that split second. And when you're somebody who is already not the most fleet of foot, to put it nicely for Jaquan Johnson, any level of hesitation kind of puts you at a disadvantage. And then Shaq isn't able to set that edge. So then Johnson has to flow over and scrape over the top.
And just imagine, man, if Mims doesn't slow Shaq Lawson down, there's no way Brown is going to get a piece of him. This is contained. No, it's just little detail right here. It just makes the difference.
Exactly. And then he contains. And what does Jaquan Johnson get to do? He gets to come forward where his strength is. He's tremendous around the line of scrimmage. And in those holes around the line, he gets to come square to the line of scrimmage, and boom, it's boxed in. But it's those little details. It's those little pieces that it takes the slightest, smallest, subtlest little piece. And again, kudos to the Jets. Well-designed play, knowing what kind of opponent they have and designing something to take advantage of it. And it's still like a hair, a fraction that just makes all the difference.
Yeah, like I said, if that's Hamlin or Poyer, I think they can make that play. So moving on to the next play here. So we've always talked about, especially in the second half of that Green Bay game, how they just invited the run. They're playing a 6-man box. You're going to see that happen here with 4:18 on the clock here. First and 15 situation here. single back power. So one puller, backside puller. You see the right guard pulling to right to left on the screen, and they're running that power into the boundary. 6 guys to start. That 7th run defender is Jaquan Johnson again, but again, he's coming from depth on this play on 1st and 15. And we talked about the penetrating style and how that can really screw you sometimes. That really opens things up for Ed Oliver, and you can see how it washes him right out of the play. You see Bernard come downhill, enter into his gap, and then the 7th run defender is picked off. Jaquan Johnson picked off by Mims again. So then they have to ask Dane Jackson to replace. You get the crack, push to the safety. You have a replacement player in the corner and Jackson, and he isn't able to make the tackle on the running back. So you can see how, plays like this with a light box, you're outnumbered. You talked about it, and you don't have enough guys in the box on this play, and your 7th guy is slow to recognize the push crack from the wide receiver, and they are able to crease you on this play and get a really, really nice gain on single back power.
Yeah, and then even on this one too, like someone who is such a sure tackler, not even just for like a corner, just for anybody, Dane Jackson is so solid. He comes forward and he misses the tackle on Michael Carter. Like Carter's just running through DBs and arm tackles left and right in this game. And then Dane stayed down after this play for a minute. It looked like he kind of banged up his arm a little bit. But again, that's that piece. Like they're going to one gap and they're going to get upfield. That puts you at a potential, there's some sort of risk there inherently against gap scheme runs. And then when you don't have the numbers advantage and you're out gapped and the math doesn't work, you're at an even bigger advantage. And you highlighted it right there. Like Oliver's sealed, like you're done. Conklin is coming down. He bangs on Bernard. You got the puller cracking down on Lawson. Carter's through the line and he is completely untouched. And then he gets one-on-one with the corner as Mims comes on that crack. And Dane Jackson, something that he's done time and time again. Dane Jackson is like the prototypical poster child for crack replace. He's just not able to make the tackle. You got 78 flowing to Edmonds. Like everything.
Yeah, he's not hindered. Like he's not slowed down because of that just one gap attacking style of Ed Oliver. He doesn't slow him down. He doesn't have to execute a deuce blocker combination or double team at the point of attack. He's free to get to the linebackers, which of course that's like why the Bills defense has been so good is because the linebackers have been clean. This isn't one of those plays. And they're just able to gash them. And it's just something we have to start keeping an eye on. Are these gap runs against the Bills defense, aggressive uphill defense? Like, are they going to become a thing? Because you're seeing it 2 weeks in a row. You're seeing counter trades. You're seeing those power runs. And you're seeing a lot of those plays get, really, really good runs. So I believe this is the last play here. Yeah, last play here. So I wanted to show you a similar play to that last one. So, another gap run, but watch the run fit. So this is a good run fit after, another run blitz call here. You're seeing the run blitz, the counter trade into the run blitz here. And it's just another good fill, first of all, by Bernard on this play, man. Like a great job of boxing that play in. So right guard, tight end, right to left on your screen. You see Hamlin money, boxes that in. He boxes that in. Here comes a tight end. And then guess what? You have a free guy right in the hole there. It's pretty when it works as far as run fits go. But too often against the Jets, there were just some minor things that went wrong, whether it's a missed tackle, whether it's a misfit in the run game, or just bad luck, right? And that happens. That's, stuff like that happens in the game.
Yeah, in a game that is so full of variables like football. And again, you have just think about the nature of it. Like football right here, like you have 11 on 11. You've got 22 different individuals, all with different responsibilities, trying to work together on their individual side of the ball to reach one common goal. Like there's just way too many variables that can lead to anything and everything on any possible play. But like you said, when it works, it's really pretty. You get the slant from the defensive line on this one. Again, another positive rep for Shaq against the run, cuts right through Brown, gums him up. I love, we mentioned it briefly and we haven't highlighted him too much in this episode, but Terrell Bernard coming forward in this game with a physical presence, taking on blockers. We saw it on the misexecution on the goal line or on the 4-yard line to start this drive. But this time it works perfectly because there's no Daquan Jones to fall into Tremaine Edmonds. So he boxes this. Robinson cuts back inside right into the waiting arms of Tremaine Edmonds, who slow plays this beautifully, and he's right in the hole.
3-yard gain. That's it.
That's it. And that's what you want. Like with this defense, you want to stay ahead of the sticks and keep plugging away and going through. And it's again, all these little details. Sometimes they work in your favor and it's a good play, and sometimes they work against you and you get gashed. And that's I think something that until we see a change, which I don't necessarily think we will, because like you mentioned, like the Bills at heart, they want to be a one gap penetrating front. This is going to be that world that they're going to have to live in. You're going to see like a tackle in the backfield from -3 or -4, and then you're going to see a run for like 12, 13, 14 yards, because if somebody's off, somebody misses a tackle, or if the right play call is timed the right way, or their box is too light, or they blitz this way and it's a gap scheme the other way and they're out leveraged, or somebody gets pulled. That's the nature of the beast at this point. And unfortunately, the pendulum swung against them in this game, and especially all on that last drive. It was just unfortunate. But again, kudos to the Jets for a good game plan and well-timed calls for them.
Yeah, I mean, it worked, and so they kept going back to the well, right? I mean, that's all you can ask for from a coordinator. Hey, trust that we can still execute, and they did. They came back to it a bunch of times, and again, on that last drive, really just it just demoralizes a team when you're able to do that with the run game. And so we have a question here from Tom. So, what's the outlook for Vikes and Dalvin Cook, and then Browns and Nick Chubb? Okay, I think these are two completely different situations. I think they'll attack, especially the run game and of the Browns, a little differently. They're not going to be showing 6-man boxes, having Jaquan Johnson coming from depth as the 7th defender against the Browns. The interesting part about the game this week on the defensive side for the Bills is that Cousins is not all that good against too high coverages, but if you play too high coverages, a guy like Dalvin Cook could really eat. So I don't know what their plan is going to be there. And I don't know if they start to look in a different direction when it comes to Jaquan Johnson, because Poyer is likely not to play this week. Yeah. So you're going to have Hamlin, and maybe Marlowe gets to start based on, some of those, some of the looks that last week came from Jaquan Johnson. What are your thoughts on that, man?
As far as, what you're going to get against Minnesota, I tell you the one thing I'm initially really focused on. So Minnesota on the year, they're a 79% zone run team, which is second. I wonder how much more gap scheme they potentially lean into this week, given what we've seen from the Bills. And also Kevin O'Connell, their head coach, comes from the Sean McVay tree, who operates a little bit from the Shanahan and the LaFleur tree. Everybody's connected. Correct. They're all connected. So do we see, especially with a weapon and a piece like Justin Jefferson or the newly added TJ Hawkinson or even Adam Thielen? Actually, KJ Osborne's a pretty fun number 3 receiver. They have a lot of options.
Some weapons and options.
They do.
For sure.
They do. So I'm very interested in how much do they stay true to who they have been this year versus how much they lean into what we've seen teams do the last several weeks against the Buffalo Bills and have some success on the ground. This is a good offense. Their offensive line is competent, and they got some, they've had some quality play there. I'm very interested to see what kind of running attack they lean on, because this is a competent offense overall. I mean, they're a good team. They're coming into this game 7-1. Their only loss was to the undefeated Eagles. They got a good squad. I'm interested to see how they attack on the ground, given who they are and what we've seen these last couple of weeks against the Bills.
Yeah, and that's the defensive side, but we need to really touch upon quickly the offensive side for the Bills, because obviously Josh Allen's status is in limbo. We're still in wait and see mode on that, but assuming that at the very least it's nothing season ending, maybe it's a few games, it's at least, I think, this game at the very least, he doesn't play. What are your thoughts on what Dorsey needs to do to keep the offense on track with a guy like Case Keenum at quarterback?
I really wish the answer was like, well, lean into the ground game. That's like,
that's what sucks. I know. That's what sucks.
That's like, that would be like a fantastic answer. I would like to see them lean into more heavier personnel and just mix in play action, try and take advantage of the chess pieces they do have. I do think they have the advantage in the secondary against the Vikings, who I know you still have Harrison Smith back there, but they're a little long in the tooth, even Harrison. And then they drafted Lewis Seen, who I really like, but he went down with an ugly injury early in the year. I also think you need to protect this offensive line against this Jags defensive front, especially on the edge. Zadarius Smith, Danielle Hunter, they're starting to rev up their engines a little bit. I think they could present some worries and some problems on the outside. It all depends on how much you think you can get out of Case Keenum. I'd like to keep it simple. I don't think he's going to be the guy to run this spread offense and sling it all over the field. So keep it simple. Go maybe a little heavier personnel packages. Try and take advantage underneath, or maybe even get some opportunities on the outside with Stephon Diggs against their corners. But if Keenum's in there, this offense, the nature of it changes. I think you have to go to more of a simplistic, strategic, and more game management style of the offense. And hopefully, if you can run the ball a little bit, obviously that helps. But I think you go more towards the 21-12 personnel aspect, run some 11. I'd also try to get more gadgetry pieces. Let's use more jet motion. Let's get Isaiah McKenzie the ball in a variety of ways, like manufacture touches and more designers rather than relying on your quarterback to be a tremendous player, unfortunately. No disrespect to Case Keenum.
No, it's obvious the scheme would have to change for Keenum. And again, we talk about Dorsey, like, can he handle that? Like, is that something that he's going to be able to do? You know,
that's going to be a huge piece if we want to see what he's like. And if it's Keenum, like you're really going to see what
I had a little more trust in a guy like Dable because we saw it in a national championship game and when he was at Alabama. So we could see, we could see that he could, create a different offense for a different type of quarterback.
Yeah.
We need to see if Dorsey can do that if a guy like Keenum plays. So that'll be like, hey, you need to run some of your RPOs. You need to run a lot more play action and some bootlegs. As you said, more manage the game type of strategy or plan, so that when they do get into third down, it's a manageable third down. And he's obviously doesn't have the type of arm strength and arm talent that Josh Allen does. So you have to give him manageable down the distances. Like you said, you got to threaten the edges with some of the screen games, some of the jets, jet sweep stuff. More importantly, screens. I know they have not been good at it, but you got to do it. You got to try it. And in many ways, a silver lining to, this type of play style and strategy is, hey, maybe the commitment to, as you said, heavier personnel groupings, a commitment to run, using that more in practice time, because obviously they're a passing team with Josh Allen. They don't run a lot of practice time. They don't do a lot of rushing stuff. It's more passing stuff. So maybe in the long run, this may help the offense go into the run game, some of that stuff. And then of course the screen game, it's got to be obviously has to be a different strategy against the Vikings. And like you said, they're a pretty well-rounded team. And more importantly, as we talked about leading into this last segment, is they have to lean on the defense, because the defense is going to have to make some plays and give them some short fields and really do it against an offense that can be very explosive, whether it's with the run game or the passing game.
Yeah, it's a complete change of, and it's funny, it ties back to something, Eric, that we've said so much. What is the Bills playbook? You open it up and it's just a picture of Josh Allen. All of a sudden, like when so much of your offensive identity has been having a unicorn at quarterback and relying on him to make unicorn plays, and that unicorn's gone, your identity changes and the way you design and call things have to change. I also think too, from a protection standpoint, right? Like Josh has been the eraser. He makes the offensive line right even when they're wrong. Case Keenum doesn't have that built into his game. So do you see more 6-man protections? Do you see more 7-man protections? Like how many receivers are able to get out into the route distribution? And then how much does Minnesota have the numbers advantage and coverage? There's a lot of chess piece potential. I also think just from a cautionary perspective, whether this is a long-term thing or it's not, I mean, I don't think Josh Allen plays this Sunday. Like I think we're going to get a Case Keenum game. Even for the most optimistic of news, I think like the most optimistic scenario is he's out for like 1 week and then he comes back maybe the week after. I would plan on a Case Keenum game, which means, like you said, silver lining, maybe in a fun way. You really get to see what Ken Dorsey's about, because he's going to have to manufacture a different game plan because that unicorn would be gone. Yeah,
it's going to be tough. Either way, it's going to be a very tough matchup. The Vikings are a good team. Top to bottom, and their head coach has them playing and believing and having fun doing it. They're winning, but they're having fun. They're playing loose. But they are coming to Buffalo, right? So we'll
exciting.
We'll see.
And they're having fun. They also, from a defensive side, like Ed Donatel being their like coach, like experience also comes from that 2 high school. Like these last several years being in Denver, it's going to be very fun and very interesting game as we move forward towards the Minnesota Vikings. But Erik, I think before we go, do we want to mention anything about like a super cool, like, I don't know, like if there was a thing, right? Like you have Cover One, and if there was something that like people who wanted more, like they wanted further access or they wanted further knowledge or they wanted more engagement with the team, like something that they could subscribe to like do, would that be like a thing that like we offer?
We actually do. If you want some in-depth breakdowns, analysis, write-ups, articles, video stuff on YouTube that only insiders have access to, One Pass is your place to go. Get to cover1.football to sign up for One Pass. We have done some like a Cover One glossary where we have breakdowns and us defining terms. Greg has a Salary Cap 101 series discussing all things contract and salary cap related. When you order and become an insider, you get a t-shirt and a decal. It's really the lifeblood of our brand here is, we try to provide in-depth content for you guys, and your support allows us to do that. It allows us to have this coaching program huddle to break down plays with you and do the telestrator. It allows us to have PFF memberships, SIS memberships. Everything you saw tonight on display is because of you guys supporting us through One Pass. And we've had people with us for many, many years in our Slack channel, and tell them about the Slack channel, because not many people know about the Slack channel, but really it's what everyone raves about when they join up.
Yeah, and some days like today, it's chaotic.
It's chaotic, absolutely,
with what's going on right now with the team and some Josh Allen pieces. But that Slack channel, so Slack is basically like a one-stop shop for a variety of different conversations. Some are purely Buffalo Bills related, some are film related, some are Chucky Wookie coming right here and saying Slack channel is great. He knows a fantasy football channel, film, Bills stuff. There's a variety of anything and everything, and basically it is all the insiders for Cover One along with all of the members of the Cover One team, and it's just a pure engaging football-minded chat where anybody and everybody can engage. And sometimes it's just pure football talk. Sometimes it's the sky is falling and what do we do? Mike knows all about it. The Slack is where it's at. Mike also is somebody who for me individually, I tremendously appreciate. Met him a couple times in the real world. He's a guy who's not on social media. So when I chat with Mike, I chat with him in Slack. We'll DM each other back and forth or talk in the chat. It's just another aspect to foster more Buffalo Bills conversation or just good football talk in general. It's a tremendous platform and area for engagement, and awesome. Chucky Wookie's bringing it tonight. He mentions Erik, the video that you posted earlier. Just a lot of extra content that we post in there and conversations and channels for anyone and everyone. And it's an awesome piece. I think that, you hit it. It's the thing that everyone always references. Like you get the awesome free t-shirt, and then everybody's like the Slack channel. It's an awesome piece and something that the brand is tremendously proud of and that the insiders all love. So subscribe to One Pass, get in that Slack channel, be a part of the chaos and also the constructive conversation and anything and everything. And that's where it's at for you folks. But for us and you folks on this episode, we're going to start to wind down here. If you're here right now, please, and thank you, drop a like on this video. Likes are the lifeblood for live streams and for us here on the Cover One Film Room and for the Cover One channel in general. So whether you're watching live now and on your way out or watching later, whatever have you, please drop a like onto this video. If you're listening on any one of the podcasting apps or platforms, thank you very much for your listen. Please rate and review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever have you, audio platforms, or on YouTube. Please subscribe to the Cover One Film Room and to the Cover One brand as a whole. We have you covered every single night of the week when it comes to anything and everything football related, Bills related, fantasy football related. Check out the Cover One website where you got tremendous write-ups on the Buffalo Bills, just a lot of detailed matchup pieces, stats, and facts you may not have known or may not have considered. Anything and everything that is about making you a smarter football fan, we got you covered here, whether it's on the podcast and the streams or on the website. A lot of that information can also be found here in the episode show notes on YouTube or one of the podcasting apps or platforms. Thank you very much to everyone who joined us live for this episode tonight. The engagement, the questions, the commentary, the banter back and forth. We are tremendously grateful and thankful for your support. If you didn't join us live, that's cool too. We appreciate that support as well. Follow us on Twitter. You can find Erik at Erik J. Turner. You can find the Cover One account on Twitter at Cover and the number one. Find me at pro__ant. Get at us on Twitter or become an insider and get at us in the Slack channel. That's awesome too. We appreciate you folks more than you will possibly know or ever truly understand. Thank you so much for riding with us on this episode of the Cover One Film Room. For Erik Turner, for myself, Anthony Prohaska, we hope you and your family and friends and loved ones take care of one another, be kind to one another. We will see you next week. We'll see what happens with Josh Allen's elbow. Godspeed.
We're waiting. Yeah.
We'll be waiting. Godspeed and go Bills.